Welcome to 6 Hearts on 6 Acres. I'm so glad you're here and I'm so excited for tonight's video. This is going to be the very first garden tour of the year. It is April, what is today? April 8th. And we have had gorgeous weather. We have really nice weather coming up. Our average last frost date here in southwest Missouri is April 20th, but right now there are no frosts in the forecast, and things are really growing and greening up, and I am super excited because this garden is going to have a drastic change here in the next few weeks. And so I want to show you where we are today. Right now, everything that's in the garden is frost hardy, which means that it can tolerate a frost. So we have all of our brassicas in here, which means we have broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, kale. I have one measly garlic plant that made it with my little bit of a failure in planting. I have lots of onions. I have potatoes. I have lettuce. I'm looking around seeing what else I have. I have spinach. I have asparagus. I have a few strawberry plants, but I have some more that I'm going to be planting this week. But overall, the majority of my garden is onions and brassicas right now. So we're going to start this garden tour on the very edge of my garden. Let me turn you around real quick and give you a view of what the whole thing actually looks like. So this is my garden from the side. It's still pretty messy. Nothing is really where it's going to stay yet as far as my black lick tubs go, and I have some wheelbarrows strewn around. Garden cleanup hasn't happened yet, and it won't happen until probably another couple weeks. We did finish putting our mulch in this week, which I'm super excited about, and my garden looks great. I put in a few different beds that are going to be new to me this year, and so I am really looking forward to this growing season and what all I can pack into my space, which is about 40 by 60. This first bed I'm showing you is my perennial asparagus bed. I have lots of asparagus growing, and you can see over there I have already harvested several as well. This bed has a lot of weeds in it. Like I said, spring garden cleanup has not really happened yet. Connected to that bed is a bed that I have all of my cabbage in. I also have onions planted in here as well to be a pest repellent. And then within this bed, I chaos planted lettuce. Lots of different varieties of lettuce. So those are just kind of strewn all around the cabbage plants and the onion plants. These Ruby Perfection cabbages are really looking healthy and beautiful. I cannot wait to see these plants. They almost look like they're starting to bud up already. More lettuce. And then at the end of this bed, I have perennial rhubarb plants. This one looks really healthy, and this one just looks okay. I've had these plants here for about 3 years now, and they always give me enough to make one pie, and that's it. I don't know, maybe I need to move them to a different location where they get more sun. This bed has a tree right here in the east, so the sun comes up over there, and so this bed doesn't get a whole lot of morning sun. It gets midday sun and it gets afternoon sun. Moving on from that bed starts my 3 rows of cattle panel trellises. In my first row, I have a few raspberry plants. It started as one, but I just planted it last year and it has created several babies. And then I have a blackberry plant there as well. So this is what it looks like. You see in these 2 rows I have compost where I'm going to be planting. There's lots of green in there as well. That's just weed and clover that wasn't killed as the compost cooked. So I'm going to have to go in and scrape all of that out before I plant. But in this 3rd row, I didn't put compost in. And the reason for that is because this raspberry plant has sent off tons of little raspberry babies, and I didn't want to cover those plants up with compost for fear that they might not push through. We're really looking forward to a great raspberry harvest this year. And then just a little bit further down is our blackberry plant. It's sending out some new shoots as well. I need to clear out all that grass around it. And then walking into the garden, I'm going to pass those 2 cattle panel trellises, or the rows of cattle panel trellis. There's 2 cattle panels on each one, so they're about 30 foot long. And then around my whole perimeter of my garden pretty much is a raised bed. So that's where we're going to start. Right now, I have these lick tubs actually as the perimeter of my garden, but I am going to move those inside the garden this year. I didn't like having to clean up all the grass around those, so those are going to come inside the garden. Right here, okay, this is going to tell you something about me. I had these plants labeled really well as I was growing them, and I kept them labeled the whole time. But my container was labeled. I didn't have little stick labels in them like I do in my tomatoes. And I put them in the garden. I even sorted them, but I did not keep them labeled. So I don't know what's broccoli, what's cauliflower. I do know the cabbage because I put it all in that one bed over there. But I also have a few Brussels sprouts mixed in here. And I don't know what's what. And I'm really completely okay with that because my broccoli and cauliflower plants look very similar, grow very similar, and have very similar needs. And so once they start forming heads, I'm going to figure out what they are. And until then, I don't really care. My Brussels sprouts obviously will look very different because they grow tall and form Brussels sprouts on a stalk. And once those start growing, I'll know what those are as well. So I'm not super worried about it. I am kind of chaotic in all areas of my life. That comes with being a mom of 4, I think. Or I'm going to blame it on them anyways. I've probably always been like that. But anyways, this bed is looking super healthy. Let me turn you around and I'll walk you through each plant. So you see all of these, like I said, broccoli or cauliflower, I'm not sure. I also have them interplanted with onions for pest management. Those are going to help keep the scent mask to keep those white moths away. And then you also see, like I said, I have a lot of clover in my beds. I'm going to try and pull it out, but it's not something I'm super worried about. A lot of people plant clover as a ground cover crop anyways. I don't necessarily want it there competing for the nutrients and the moisture in my garden, so I will pull most of it out, but if I miss some of it, no big deal. I also have in this bed though tons of little volunteer sunflowers growing. Those are a grow one time, have in your garden forever kind of plant. I've grown tons of different varieties, so I'm not even sure which kind of sunflowers these are, but they are all over this bed. I am probably going to pull them out though, because this bed behind me right here is going to be a flower bed this year, and so I'd like to grow a lot of sunflowers in it. Sunflowers put off a chemical that can actually keep other plants from growing, but they are literally all over the place in this bed, and so I'm going to just pull those out. All right, the end of this bed, I have some more onions, and then I have a perennial thyme plant. I moved this plant from another bed, and some of it didn't make it. So you see these dead sticks, they didn't green back up. I need to go in and cut them off, but a lot of the plants survived. I also have in this bed tons of little baby carrots all over the place. Moving from this bed onto the next. So I have this little space in between each of my beds. Life of a mother. Ignore my kids in the background. They are on the trampoline fighting. No surprise there. Somebody's always fighting in this house. But I want to show you in this little area, I have some more volunteers. And this is a borage plant. And I'm super excited about it volunteering in my garden because it is great for the pollinators. Borage is again one of those plants. You plant it once, it reseeds itself over and over and over. I had to switch to my husband's phone because mine died, but we were talking about borage and how once you plant it in your garden, it's going to reseed itself every single year and it will be there forever. Borage is really fabulous for pollinators. The bees love it. And bonus points, the flowers taste like cucumbers. So we really like to just grab a few and stick them in our salads. And the kids think it's just fun to come out here and eat flowers. So That's something that I really am happy has volunteered itself in my garden, and it will always have a place here. All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on to our next bed. This bed, again, you see a lot of clover in there. That's gonna be repeated in every single bed that I have. But there are onions right here. These are the ones that I started from seed. There are lots of little baby carrots in this garden all over the place. This bed had some really great carrot germination. These are something that I just chaos planted. I did not plant them in rows. And then moving on to the next bed. Back here I have two really beautiful chive plants that are giving me some chive blossoms, and I am really super excited to use those in my cooking. I've already harvested a ton of those chives, but this is my first year to be able to harvest the chive blossoms because I just planted them last year and they didn't bloom at all. So those chive blossoms are just going to have a really mild onion taste and are supposed to be really delicious. So I'm looking forward to that. They are just starting to open up, so this week we're going to be able to start using them. This bed also has another thyme plant that I attempted to transplant, and you can see that almost all of it is dead except this little bit right here in the middle is all that survived. So I need to trim that plant up really well. And then right here is a whole bunch of baby cilantro. We love to use cilantro in our cooking, so I'm looking forward to that growing so I can start to harvest it. Again, in this bed, just like all the others, lots of little baby carrots, clover all over the place, and a perimeter of onions. At the end of this bed is more brassicas. Again, I don't know if they're broccoli, cauliflower, or cabbage. This one has a little bit of sun damage to it, but the rest of the plant is healthy and growing, so I'm not worried about it. And then moving on to the next bed, I have a little bit of an open space right here. I'm going to fill that area in with my lick tubs. I left that open so that we could get into the garden with a tractor when we needed to. It was super helpful in laying all this mulch and adding compost to all of my beds. Ignore my voice, by the way. I'm pretty hoarse. I've been fighting, I don't know if it's allergies or a summer cold or what it is. My whole family's kind of gotten it, and I feel better. I'm not sick anymore, but my voice is a little bit goofy sounding. All right, we are to the next bed. This is one of my L-shaped beds. Let me turn you around. Starting this bed is two really big, pretty yarrow plants. Again, a lot of weeds that need cleaned out. There is a perimeter of onions. They're starting to get some good stockiness to them, growing really healthily. Same thing throughout all this garden. There's some carrots just kind of scattered around. And then we come to the end and we have some sugar snap peas. Those are going to grow up this arched trellis. Sugar snap peas don't grow super tall. They probably grow about the height of that T-post right there. Sugar snap peas don't like heat though, so once it gets warm, I will pull those out and they will be replaced with something that will vine up all the way over the arch. I haven't decided exactly what's going in that spot yet, but I have big plans for all of my arches this year. All right, we're gonna go ahead and walk over to the other bed at the front. So we're at the front of my garden now with that L. The shorter part of the L began the front of my garden. This bed right here is kind of my middle bed of my garden, and it is situated between two arched trellises. In this bed are more sugar snap peas. I'm pretty sure that these ones are the tendril peas. These tendrils are edible, but these ones have way more than all the others. They are starting to grab a hold of this trellis, and they will continue to climb just like all the others. Lots of peas, lots of weeds that I need to pull. I have two yarrow plants here. There's, again, little baby carrots scattered throughout the garden. I have a sage plant. And then that bed turns into this bed. This bed is attached to, let me scooch you back. It's attached to a really long arch trellis that's going to actually be extended even longer this year. It's going to add those 2 beds to it as well. And so right now I have sugar snap peas growing up the trellis. And inside, well, I'll take you inside in a minute, but on this bed we have peas. We have more brassicas that are looking really healthy and great. There's a few of them that have gotten eaten up a little bit. I am not worried about those. This one you can see something's kind of gotten a hold of it. My chicken, I had a chicken get out the other day and he did a little bit of munching out here. Nothing that's not gonna just grow and repair itself though. All right, and then we come to this beautiful bundle of green. This is oregano. Oregano is a perennial in our area, and it kind of, look at all these oregano babies. It kind of takes over your garden if you are not careful. There's oregano everywhere. Connected to this bed is a new bed that we just built. It's a 9x3 bed that we're going to use to extend the arch trellis even further, another about 8 foot, and it's going to look amazing when it is full. That long trellis is going to be amazing this summer. It's got 1, 2, 3, so it's going to have 5 cattle panels, which are 4 foot wide each. So we're going to have a 20-foot trellis to walk through with squash and pumpkins and beans and cucumbers and what did I say? Sometimes beans, cucumbers, just all of the goodies are going to be growing through that, and we're going to walk through them, and it's going to be so neat to see. It's beautiful. It's one of my favorite parts of my garden. But I'm growing inside this trellis because right now it's getting plenty of sun before it's hot out. And once it gets hot, it's going to be shaded by the plants that are growing. So this is where I grow my spinach. You can see it's sparse in a few areas. I need to come replant that. But I have been able to harvest a little bit already. That's just a weed I need to pull. But I have gotten a harvest off of this spinach already, and it's looking like it could stand another harvest. So it's growing really great. And then we come to this bed. I have sugar snap peas planted on the edge because it is going to have an arch eventually that they're going to be able to grow up. I have a good stand of really healthy looking onions right here. Tons and tons of clover in this bed, so I really need to come in and clean it out pretty good. In this bed I also have a Swiss chard, a few Swiss chard plants. I thinned them out already, so I have kind of what I wanted to end up with. And I also have a few different varieties of kale growing in this bed. So I'm really looking forward to some kale harvest here before too long. All right, so we're gonna walk, we're inside the middle of the garden now. We're gonna walk towards our second kind of L-shaped bed. This is gonna be what's attached to this side of the arch trellis. So this bed has some oregano growing here. It's got lots of volunteer sunflowers again that I need to pull out. It's got sugar snap peas that are gonna be growing up this trellis. And it's got some really healthy, big brassica plants, either broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, I don't know. These leaves are about the size of my hand now. They look really great. There's a perimeter of onions by those, and they're looking really healthy as well. Again, like all the other beds, lots of clover that I need to pull out, and lots of carrots that I kind of just chaos planted through the bed. And then here is the front garden bed. Again, it has sugar snap peas that are going to grow up the arch trellis, and lots of brassicas and onions growing through the bed. So right now, since we aren't past our last frost, or actually hopefully we are, but we're not to our average last frost date yet. Like I said, everything in this garden is kind of the same. Lots of brassicas and lots of onions. But here in just the next, I think I'm going to be brave, be a little bit of a rebel, and go ahead and throw some frost tinder seeds into the garden. I'm thinking about starting my squash and my zucchini already. If we do have a frost, they would die, but I feel like I might be wasting less than $3 of seeds, but if it doesn't frost, I'm going to get a really early harvest this year and hopefully beat the squash bugs and the squash vine borers, which I always fight. So I'm going to try that and just see what happens. All right, I'm going to take you now to the middle of my garden. We talked about, and I showed you before, the flower bed that we built this year. I still don't have it completely built. I have the headboard in, but I have not brought the footboard in yet. So right now it has a side perimeter of onions, the ones that I started from seed, and growing up the bed is some sweet pea flowers. Those smell amazing, and I cannot wait until they start to bloom and I can bring them into the house in some bouquets. So here are the onions, again littered with tons of clover. This whole bed is. I just need to go in and scrape the top of that since nothing is planted in this area yet. I have 3 brassicas here. They're pretty little. They're not doing fabulous. And I have lots of sweet pea flowers coming up all along the bed here. So those are going to get tall and climb up this headboard, and they're going to look so pretty. The next part of the garden is over just a little bit, and it is new to my garden this year. It is 4 raised metal beds that we ordered off of Amazon. We filled them with compost. 3 of them have potatoes, and this last one is going to be planted with strawberry plants. Let me turn you around and show you those. So this bed is not planted yet. It's going to have strawberries. This bed I just planted yesterday with red potatoes. This is an in-ground area where we will be planting corn and winter squash. And then I'm going to do a row all the way down the garden of these lick tubs, and I'm going to put green beans in them to make them much easier to harvest without having to squat over. But this bed we planted together, and this was potatoes. And I just wanted to show you, they started coming up this week already. They're looking great. So that is the garden so far in the beginning of April. We have like a week and a half until our average last frost date, but we have no frost on the forecast right now. It has been beautiful, and the rest of this week looks beautiful. I kind of feel like we may be over our frosts for the year, I hope, but I'm not brave enough yet to bring out my tomatoes or peppers, and I'm not going to do that until the 1st of May. I want to make sure that they're strong, healthy plants and that our weather is going to cooperate, because I have a lot of work and time put into those. But I am going to go ahead and feel comfortable starting some seeds for squash and zucchini and maybe some cucumbers. If we do get another frost and those die off, I didn't lose a whole lot by doing that, and I can just restart those again, so no big deal. I'm going to turn you around and show you what the garden looks like from the view of my house. I'm going to give you just a whole walkthrough of the front of the garden, because I want to repeat this here in a few months and show you how much change is going to happen. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight and doing this garden tour with me. It's such an honor to be able to walk you through my garden and show you what all we are growing and to teach you along the way. I hope watching this video encourages you to grow your own garden in your own backyard and be able to harvest and preserve the food for your own family.